Welcome to the InnoGuide podcast. I'm your host, Bob Boudelier. This podcast, my website, and my weekly newsletter all focus on bringing you the secrets of innovation. Since I don't rely on paid ads, I want to thank our customers who subscribe to our AI Fusion Kickstarter program and those who leverage AI Fusion coaching to bring human-centered AI into their organizations. You can find us at www.innoguide.net. In this episode number 66, we're sharing Building the AI-Ready Workforce from Fear to Fluency, Part 2. This podcast draws on insights and data from multiple reports, including the MIT Gen AI Divide, the State of AI in Business 2025. From Bessemer Venture Partners, AI Upskilling Guide for Executives. From Randstad Digital, the AI Workforce Playbook, a step-by-step guide to upskilling at scale. The Southern Regional Education Board, Skills for an AI-Ready Workforce, and the World Economic Forum, Future Jobs Report 2025. Without further ado, please enjoy this episode, Building the AI-Ready Workforce from Fear to Fluency. Welcome to the InnoGuide podcast, where we share the works of authors and mentors to guide innovation. Let's get started. This is part 2, so we're starting with Chapter 6, Leadership, Governance, and Ethical Alignment. Every technological revolution eventually tests not just what leaders know, but what they believe. Artificial intelligence, more than any preceding innovation, forces executives to confront questions of judgment, accountability, and purpose. AI can amplify strengths, but it can also magnify weaknesses. If leadership is unclear, divided, or reactive, AI will reflect that confusion in every output it generates. The Bessemer AI Upskilling Guide for Executives makes this point plainly. AI transformation cannot be delegated to technical teams. It must be led by the CEO, owned by the board, and modeled by every senior leader. As Susan Youngblood, one of the report's lead advisors, wrote, AI adoption is not a data initiative. It's a cultural and leadership initiative disguised as one. That sentence captures the essence of the governance challenge. To lead with AI, executives must first learn to lead in AI, integrating ethical reasoning, transparency, and human oversight into every decision. The evolving role of leadership. Traditionally, technology strategy has lived within the office of the CIO or the CTO. These roles focus on infrastructure, cybersecurity, and technical performance. AI, however, sits at the intersection of technology, psychology, and sociology. It shapes how people think, collaborate, and make decisions. For that reason, it demands a leadership coalition broader than any previous digital transformation. The board's responsibility is to define principles. Why are we using AI? What risks are accessible? What outcomes are we optimizing for? The CEO's responsibility is to model behavior, to learn, to question, to communicate. Functional leaders, from operations to marketing to HR, must interpret those principles for their domains, ensuring that AI augments rather than distorts their missions. And finally, employees themselves must become stewards of responsible use, applying judgment at the edge of the organization. This distributed form of leadership, what Bessemer calls shared accountability, is essential because AI diffuses decision-making. Recommendation engine can shape customer experiences, a hiring algorithm can influence diversity outcomes, an automated report can steer investment priorities. When decisions become decentralized through algorithms, oversight must become collective. The governance imperative. MIT's Gen AI Divide research found that fewer than 60% of the companies have conducted even a preliminary assessment of AI risks. That statistic should alarm every boardroom. As AI systems begin influencing pricing, hiring, or clinical decisions, the margin for ethical error narrows dramatically. Bias, data leakage, or misinterpretations can cause not only reputational harm, but legal exposure. The solution, however, is not fear, it's governance. Governance creates structure without stifling innovation, provides the rails that allow experimentation to move quickly but safely. Bessemer's framework suggests 3 layers of governance: policy, oversight, and review. Policy defines boundaries, where AI may be used, what data may be accessed, and which tools are approved. Oversight ensures adherence. often through cross-functional AI councils or ethics boards. Review closes the loop by auditing outcomes, assessing performance, and identifying areas for improvement. This tri-layer model works because it's dynamic, not static. It evolves as the organization learns. The key is proportionality. Rules should match the maturity of use. Early experimentation may require lightweight oversight, while large-scale deployment demands formal checks and transparency mechanisms. Ethical alignment, the conscience of automation. Ethics is not a side note in AI governance, it's the operating principle. As automation enters spaces once reserved for human judgment, the question, should we, becomes more important than can we. Ethical alignment ensures that technology reflects institutional values rather than eroding them. AI ethics encompasses fairness, accountability, transparency, and explainability. These are not abstract virtues, they are practical safeguards. Fairness prevents discrimination in hiring or lending algorithms. Accountability assigns ownership when AI decisions have consequences. Transparency clarifies how results are generated, and explainability allows humans to understand and contest machine recommendations. Together, these principles transform AI from a black box into a collaborative tool. When employees and customers can see how AI reaches conclusions, they trust it more. Trust, as we have seen, is the currency of adoption. Bessemer's report recommends that every organization articulate its own AI code of conduct, a concise, accessible document that defines these principles in plain language. This code should be visible, referenced in onboarding, and reinforced in performance evaluations. The goal is to make ethical behavior habitual, not heroic. Leadership is learning. Leading in the age of AI requires profound humility, the recognition that no one, however experienced, fully understands what's unfolding. The technology evolves daily. What was impossible last quarter is standard practice today. In this environment, the best leaders are learners. They model curiosity and adaptability. They ask questions out loud. They admit when they don't know. MIT's interviews with executives revealed that those who personally engaged with AI tools developed deeper empathy for the challenges their employees faced. They learned which tasks were genuinely accelerated and which required more oversight. They discovered the nuances of prompt design and data sensitivity firsthand. That experiential learning became a leadership asset, not a distraction. This learning in public approach creates a ripple effect. When a CEO experiments with AI and shares the results, even imperfect ones, it legitimizes learning across the organization. Employees see that exploration is safe and that mastery is a shared journey. Bessemer calls this behavior executive visibility in learning, and it correlates strongly with adoption success. Human oversight as a strategic function. In AI-enabled organizations, human oversight becomes not a formality but a discipline. The WEF's Future of Jobs 2025 report predicts that roles emphasizing judgment, ethics, and systems thinking will grow even faster than AI technical roles. Positions such as AI ethicist, human-in-the-loop coordinator, and automation auditor are already emerging. Their mission is to ensure that algorithms remain aligned with human intent. Human oversight functions best when it's embedded, not externalized. Rather than one compliance department checking outputs, oversight should occur within each workflow. For instance, in a hospital setting, clinicians validating AI diagnostics form part of the safety loop. In finance, analysts reviewing model-driven forecasts act as accountability partners. These micro-checkpoints keep automation grounded in human context. The Bessemer framework offers a succinct principle. AI should extend human judgment, not replace it. This is the philosophy of augmentation over automation, the belief that the technology should amplify what people do best: interpret, empathize, and decide. Governance as empowerment. When designed well, governance does not slow innovation, it accelerates it. By clarifying boundaries and responsibilities, it removes uncertainty and builds confidence. Teams know what's permissible, what's encouraged, and where to escalate concerns. This clarity frees up energy for creativity. Randstad's playbook captures this paradox elegantly. The safer people feel, the faster they innovate. Safety comes from knowing the rules of the engagement. Innovation thrives when those rules are transparent and fair. Thus, governance is not a bureaucratic layer, but a productivity enabler, a platform for trust. The role of boards. Boards of directors, too, must evolve. AI oversight cannot remain a quarterly agenda item buried beneath financial reviews. It deserves standing attention akin to cybersecurity or ESG. Progressive boards are already establishing AI subcommittees that blend technical literacy with ethical judgment. They bring together directors with backgrounds in technology, law, psychology, and public policy, recognizing that AI's implications span all of these domains. These boards view AI not only as a risk, but as an opportunity for leadership differentiation. By embedding AI governance into strategy, they position their organizations as responsible innovators. They understand that in the coming years, customers, regulators, and investors alike will reward transparency and penalize opacity. Leadership integrity in an algorithmic age. Ultimately, ethical alignment depends on integrity, the alignment between what leaders say and what they do. AI amplifies inconsistency. If executives preach responsibility but pursue metrics that reward shortcuts, systems will follow those incentives. If they champion transparency but operate in secrecy, employees will mirror that behavior. In algorithmic organizations, values propagate as quickly as data. Leadership integrity, therefore, is not symbolic, it's systemic. It determines the moral geometry of AI at scale. When executives align governance with values, they create what the WEF calls trusted autonomy, technology that acts responsibly even when unsupervised. That's the holy grail of ethical design, systems that carry forward the principles of their creators. Closing the leadership gap. Across the reports, one refrain emerges. AI will not reduce the need for leadership, it will redefine it. The leaders of tomorrow must combine emotional intelligence with data literacy, strategic vision with ethical awareness, and decisiveness with humility. They must be fluent in both human language and machine logic. This dual fluency is what will separate organizations that merely use AI from those that lead with it. Leadership in this context becomes less about control and more about orchestration. It is the art of aligning human creativity and machine efficiency toward a shared mission. That alignment, ethical, operational, and emotional, is the cornerstone of AI maturity. Part 7. Building the learning ecosystem, from training to transformation. Once leaders set the ethical compass and cultural tone, the next step is to design the environment where learning becomes both inevitable and rewarding. Technology changes too quickly for organizations to rely on static training programs. By the time a new curriculum is printed or a webinar recorded, the tools have already evolved. The challenge then is not to simply train employees, it's to build an ecosystem in which learning, experimentation, and feedback flow continuously. The distinction is critical. Training delivers knowledge, ecosystems build capability. Training ends, ecosystems endure. And in an AI-driven economy where skills can expire within months, durability of learning may be the most strategic asset of all. From classroom to ecosystem. The traditional corporate training model resembles a classroom, centralized, episodic, and time-bound. Employees attend courses, collect certificates, and return to their jobs unchanged. AI, however, thrives on iteration and context. The organizations that succeed with it mirror its structure. They learn continuously, adapt quickly, and refine processes through feedback loops. Randstad's AI Workforce Playbook provides a clear blueprint for this transition. It defines 5 stages of workforce transformation: gap analysis, prioritization, collaboration, tracking, and recognition. Taken together, these stages form a self-sustaining ecosystem for growth. Each stage feeds the next, creating momentum that converts learning into behavior and behavior into culture. Let's take them one at a time. Gap analysis. Number 1, knowing where you stand. The first step in any ecosystem is self-awareness. Before launching grand initiatives, leaders must ask, what skills do we already possess? What do we lack? And where are the biggest constraints to progress? The gap analysis worksheet proposed in Randstad's playbook is not just an HR exercise, it's a strategic diagnostic tool. It allows organizations to inventory their collective knowledge and identify friction points across teams. This analysis should include both technical and behavioral skills. Technical mapping reveals whether teams understand AI fundamentals, data structures, model limitations, prompt engineering. Behavioral mapping uncovers softer yet equally critical traits such as curiosity, adaptability, and trust. The intersection of these maps shows where intervention will have the most impact. As one executive interviewed by MIT remarked, "You can't scale what you don't understand, and you can't understand what you don't measure." Gap analysis transforms vague intentions into measurable strategy. Number 2, prioritization, acting with focus. Once the gaps are visible, the next challenge is choosing where to begin. AI transformation often fails because organizations try to do everything at once. The playbook's prioritization framework introduces discipline to this process. It weighs each initiative against 3 dimensions: urgency, strategic importance, and resource availability. High-impact, low-complexity projects rise to the top. Low-impact distractions fall away. Prioritization creates early wins, visible proof that learning translates into results. These wins are vital. They build confidence and provide case studies to inspire further investment. As one Bessemer advisor puts it, AI adoption moves at the speed of trust, and trust grows fastest where results are tangible. Step 3, collaboration, learning through community. No one becomes fluent in AI alone. Learning accelerates in communities. Randstad recommends forming cross-departmental learning cohorts, groups of employees from different functions who explore AI use cases together. This cross-pollination yields unexpected benefits. Operations staff learn how marketing uses predictive analytics, finance learns how R&D applies simulation tools, ideas converge and silos erode. These cohorts often evolve into what SREB calls communities of practice, self-organizing groups that meet regularly to share insights, troubleshoot challenges, and co-develop solutions. Over time, these communities become the social infrastructure of learning. They replace the one-way transmission of information with multidirectional dialogue. The result is what MIT researchers describe as collective cognition, an organization that thinks together. Collaboration also creates accountability. When peers learn side by side, they hold each other to higher standards. They celebrate progress, share failures, and normalize iteration. This social dynamic turns learning from obligation into participation. 4. Tracking. Make progress visible. In traditional training, learning is measured by attendance. In an ecosystem, it's measured by application. Randstad's tracking structures emphasize real-time monitoring of learning outcomes, what people are actually doing with what they've learned. This might include dashboards showing how many employees use AI tools weekly, how many processes have been optimized, or how many hours have been saved through automation. Data transforms learning into evidence. It gives leaders insights into what's working and what's not. And when shared transparently, it reinforces momentum. Employees can see their contributions accumulate, an emerging mosaic of progress. Track also supports adaptability. If adoption stalls in one area, leaders can intervene quickly. If a new tool gains traction, they can expand support. The organization becomes self-correcting, a living, learning organism guided by data and purpose. Number 5, recognition. Sustaining motivation. Finally, recognition closes the loop. Learning ecosystems thrive when achievement is visible and valued. Randstad's recognition mechanisms provide the emotional fuel that sustains engagement over time. These can range from formal certificates to informal praise. Anything that signals progress matters. The most effective programs tie recognition to identity. At one global logistics firm, employees who completed AI literacy programs earned digital competency badges. These badges appeared in email signatures, signaling expertise and sparking conversation. Participation soared as employees completed Playfully for Mastery. The initiative cost little but transformed perception. AI was no longer an imposed technology but a shared badge of pride. Recognition also redefines leadership's role. Managers shift from evaluators to sponsors, celebrating milestones rather than policing performance. This shift reinforces trust and encourages self-direction. When employees see their efforts acknowledged, they invest more deeply in their learning journey. The multiplier effect of ecosystems. When these 5 components, gap analysis, prioritization, collaboration, tracking, and recognition, operate in harmony, learning accelerates geometrically. Each reinforces the other. Gap analysis identifies needs, prioritization directs focus, collaboration expands ideas, tracking measures progress, and recognition sustains the motivation. Over time, this loop generates its own energy. Learning becomes less about compliance and more about contribution. MIT's researchers call this phenomenon self-reinforcing innovation. Once established, it becomes difficult to stop because the system learns to feed itself. As employees apply new skills, they uncover new opportunities. As they share successes, they inspire peers. As data confirms impact, leadership invests further. The flywheel of transformation spins faster with each cycle. Embedding learning into organizational DNA. The ultimate goal of a learning ecosystem is permanence. When learning becomes habitual, it ceases to require external prompting. It becomes part of the organization's DNA. This is the difference between digital adoption and digital evolution. Bessemer's Susan Youngblood describes mature organizations as perpetually beta. They never stop iterating on products, on processes, on themselves. They treat learning not as a cost center, but as an engine of renewal. In these environments, employees expect to reskill every few years, not because they must, but because they want to. Learning is synonymous with growth. SREB's data shows that such ecosystems outperform peers in both innovation and retention. Workers who feel their skills are improving are twice as likely to stay. They're also more likely to recommend their employer to others, creating a virtuous cycle of attraction and development. In tight talent markets, this becomes a decisive advantage. The human engine of innovation. Ultimately, the power of a learning ecosystem lies in its humanity. AI can process data and suggest optimizations, but only humans can connect dots across experience, emotion, and ethics. When people learn together, they don't just acquire skills, they build trust, empathy, and collective intelligence. They create meaning. And meaning is what transforms technology from a tool into a movement. In every successful case, whether a hospital digitizing patient records, factory implementing predictive maintenance, or a university modernizing its curriculum, the inflection point is always the same. The technology works because the people behind it learn together. That's the quiet miracle of AI transformation. Beneath all the code and algorithms, progress still runs on human curiosity. And the organizations that nurture that curiosity through intentional learning ecosystems will not just survive the AI revolution, they will define it. Part 8. The Future of Work, Skills, Roles, and the Shifting Center of Gravity. Every few generations, the relationship between human skill and economic value undergoes a seismic shift. In the 19th century, the ability to operate machines defined prosperity. In the 20th, it was the mastery of information. Now in the 21st, it is fluency in intelligence itself, our ability to think alongside algorithms, to guide them, and to use their insights responsibly. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs Report 2025 captures this shift with startling clarity. According to its projections, 44% of workers' core skills will change by 2028. More than half of all employees will require significant reskilling or upskilling. The implication is not that jobs will vanish overnight, but that their gravitational center, what makes them valuable, will move. As the report notes, work is being redefined not by the disappearance of roles, but by the reconfiguration of skills. In other words, automation is not eliminating work, it's redistributing it. Tasks once performed manually are being absorbed by AI systems, while new responsibilities emerge around oversight, interpretation, and innovation. This shift demands that individuals and institutions alike reimagine what it means to be skilled. The acceleration of hybrid intelligence. The WEF describes the coming decade as the era of hybrid intelligence, partnership between humans and machines in which cognition is shared, not outsourced. Routine and repetitive functions are automated while distinctly human capabilities, critical thinking, creativity, empathy, and ethical reasoning become differentiators. The highest performing organizations, therefore, will not be those that automate the most, but those that choreograph collaboration between people and algorithms most effectively. The hybrid model requires a workforce that is both technologically competent and emotionally intelligent. It blurs the boundary between technical and non-technical roles. Engineers must understand ethics and communication, marketers must grasp data science, clinicians must interpret algorithmic insights, and educators must design for adaptive learning systems. Every profession becomes interdisciplinary, fusing logic with humanity. The new anatomy of skills. To map this evolution, the WEF categorizes emerging skills into 3 broad domains: cognitive, interpersonal, and technical. Cognitive skills, analytical thinking, problem-solving, and active learning remain the most in demand. Organizations consistently rank them as the foundation for navigating ambiguity and complexity. Analytical thinking in particular has overtaken manual dexterity and memorization as the top determinant of employability. It's the skill that enables human to interpret machine output critically rather than accept it passively. Second is interpersonal skills, communication, leadership, and empathy, the connective tissue of hybrid intelligence. They allow teams to integrate AI outputs into collaborative decisions. In many organizations, these skills have become the new management science. As WEF analysts note, leadership in the age of AI is less about commanding and more about connecting. Influence now flows through dialogue and shared understanding. And third is technical skills. AI literacy, data analysis, and cybersecurity round out the triad. They represent the new baseline for digital citizenship. Even roles not traditionally considered technical will require familiarity with AI interfaces and data ethics. As SREB emphasizes, AI literacy will become as fundamental as reading and mathematics in the coming decades. This doesn't mean every worker must become a programmer, but every professional must understand how AI systems reach conclusions and how to challenge them when necessary. The rise of adaptive professionals. In this new landscape, the most valuable workers are not the most specialized, but the most adaptive. They are comfortable unlearning, relearning, and reapplying knowledge across contexts. The concept of dynamic capability, the ability to pivot quickly between domains, has emerged as a key predictor of success. In the WEF survey, adaptability ranked second only to analytical thinking as the most important skill for 2025 and beyond. Bessemer's advisors echo this finding from a leadership perspective. They observe that career resilience now depends less on the stability of your role and more on the elasticity of your skills. Those who approach their professions as evolving portfolios rather than fixed identities are best positioned to thrive. This shift marks the end of the linear career. The future will favor modular careers, a series of overlapping skill sets that evolve with each project or innovation cycle. Emerging roles and industries. The changing skill matrix is already manifesting in new roles. WEF identifies rapid growth in positions related to AI development, sustainability, cybersecurity, and data stewardship. Job titles such as AI ethics officer, prompt engineer, data curator, automation strategist, and human AI collaboration specialist are entering org charts. Healthcare is seeing the rise of clinical algorithm evaluators. Manufacturing now employs predictive maintenance analysts. Education institutes are hiring AI curriculum designers. Meanwhile, industries rooted in human care, creativity, and judgment are expanding. Healthcare education, green technology, and creative services are all projected to add millions of jobs globally by 2030. The paradox is clear. As AI advances, the demand for distinctly human work increases. Where machines handle information, humans create interpretation. Where systems optimize processes, humans optimize purpose. The shrinking half-life of skills. Perhaps the most sobering finding in the WEF's analysis is the shortening half-life of skills. The average technical skill now remains relevant for less than 3 years. This volatility has profound implications for education, employment, and leadership. It means that learning cannot end with formal schooling. It must become continuous, modular, and personalized. The SREB's framework directly addresses this challenge. It advocates embedding AI literacy across all levels of education from K through 12 through workforce development. AI should not be confined to computer science courses. It should be woven through every discipline. In literature, students can analyze AI-generated narratives. In social studies, they can debate algorithmic bias. In science, they can model data through machine learning simulations. By normalizing AI across subjects, we prepare future professionals to think critically about its implications in any field. For adults already in the workforce, this principle translates into lifelong learning infrastructure. Companies must partner with universities, community colleges, and online platforms to provide ongoing education. Credentials will become stackable, micro-certifications that can be earned quickly, combined flexibly, and updated frequently. This modularity allows workers to refresh their skills without stepping off the career treadmill. The geography of opportunity. The WEF also notes that AI is reshaping not only what work is done, but where it is done. Remote collaboration tools powered by intelligent systems have expanded the global talent pool. Geography is becoming less deterministic, but digital access more critical. Regions and industries that invest in connectivity, education, and AI infrastructure will capture the next wave of growth. Conversely, those that fail to modernize risk deepening inequality. The SRB's analysis of regional workforce readiness underscores this divide. It states that integrate AI literacy into public education and workforce programs are creating talent pipelines that attract investment. Those that lag behind risk losing competitiveness. In the words of SREB's authors, AI readiness is no longer a differentiator, it's a prerequisite for participation in the future economy. Human-centered economies. Amid all the projections and data, one constant remains. Work is a human endeavor. Technology may change how tasks are performed, but it cannot replace the need for meaning, purpose, and belonging. The WEF emphasizes that future competitiveness will hinge on economies that prioritize human capital. That means investing not only in hardware and software, but in hardware, the culture, ethics, and creativity that make innovation sustainable. MIT's own research on organizational learning reinforces this view. Companies that combine technical investment with people development outperform peers in productivity and retention. When employees see that AI is being used to empower rather than exploit them, they engage more deeply. When they have a voice in shaping how technology is applied, they become innovators rather than observers. A new social contract for skills. All these shifts point toward a redefined social contract between employers, employees, and society. For decades, the implicit bargain was stability in exchange for loyalty. Today, that bargain has evolved, opportunity in exchange for adaptability. Employers provide access to learning and growth. Employees provide continuous curiosity and reinvention. Governments and educators act as the connective tissue, ensuring access and equity in reskilling opportunities. This triple partnership, industry, education, and policy, will determine how inclusive the AI revolution becomes. As Bessemer's report concludes, the next competitive frontier is not who has the best algorithms, but who has the most adaptable people. That adaptability begins not in technology labs or corporate boardrooms, but in classrooms, workshops, and living rooms where people rediscover the joy of learning. The shift from jobs to skills. Perhaps the most profound takeaway from all the research is that the future of work will be defined less by jobs than by skills. Job titles will change, morph, and sometimes disappear, but skills endure. A person fluent in problem-solving, communication, and AI reasoning will find a place in any industry. As SREB writes, in an AI-driven world, the transferable skill is the universal passport. This realization reframes economic policy, corporate strategy, and personal growth alike. It suggests that the ultimate competitive advantage is not efficiency, but learning agility, the capacity to acquire, apply, and renew knowledge faster than change itself. The gravity of work, in other words, is shifting from stability to fluidity. And those who can surf that shift, embracing learning as a way of life, will not be swept aside by the AI tide. They will ride it. Part 9. From Measurement to Mastery, Tracking Progress and Impact. When organizations begin their AI transformation journey, they often ask a simple but revealing question: how do we know if it's working? In the early stages, the metrics feel intangible: curiosity, participation, confidence. But over time, as teams mature and processes evolve, those intangibles translate into measurable outcomes. The challenge is to capture that evolution without reducing it to a checklist. AI maturity is not a static state, but a living process, one that must be measured through movement, not snapshots. MIT's Gen AI Divide report reminds us that the majority of AI initiatives fail not because of technology, but because progress is invisible. Leaders launch pilots, but feedback loops are absent. Employees learn new tools, but learning outcomes aren't tracked or shared. When progress cannot be seen, motivation withers. I'll say that again, because this is the leading problem I encounter with clients. When progress cannot be seen, motivation withers. As the report notes, what gets measured gets maintained. What goes unseen fades. To sustain transformation, organizations must build systems that make learning visible, measurable, and meaningful. Beyond vanity metrics. The first trap to avoid is what Bessemer Venture Partners calls vanity metrics. These are easy to collect numbers that make you look good in presentations, but say little about impact. The number of AI licenses issued, hours of training completed, or chatbots deployed, they measure activity, not ability. True transformation requires metrics that connect learning to performance and performance to purpose. The most advanced organizations measure adoption along 3 dimensions: capability, confidence, and contribution. Capability tracks skill acquisition. How many employees can perform AI-related tasks effectively and independently? Confidence measures attitude, whether employees trust their ability to use AI responsibly, and whether they believe leadership supports experimentation. And contribution captures behavior, how often employees initiate new AI use cases, share insights, or mentor peers. This triad forms a balanced scorecard for cultural as well as technical progress. As Bessemer's advisors emphasize, it's not just about how many people can use AI, but how many people choose to. The Randstad model, continuous monitoring. Randstad's AI Workforce Playbook provides practical structure for this kind of measurement. Its Tracking Structures framework encourages organizations to integrate data collection into the daily rhythm of work. This means building dashboards that track learning engagement, tool usage, and process improvements in real time. But more importantly, it means correlating those data with business outcomes, cycle time reduction, error elimination, cost savings, or employee satisfaction. For example, a pharmaceutical company piloting AI in regulatory documentation could measure not only how many employees completed training, but also how many submissions were completed faster, how error rates changed, and how confidence scores evolved in follow-up surveys. By linking performance data with learning data, organizations create a 360-degree view of progress. The playbook also recommends using leading indicators rather than lagging ones. Instead of waiting for annual reviews, leaders monitor participation weekly or monthly. This allows for quick adjustments, new coaching where adoption lags, recognition where momentum grows. Measurement becomes less about judgment and more about navigation. The power of feedback loops. MIT's research reinforces that successful AI transformations operate in loops, not lines. In linear models, projects progress from pilot to scale to maintenance with little feedback from end users. In looped models, every implementation generates new insights that feed into future iterations. This feedback can be technical, improving prompt templates, adjusting model parameters, or human, such as identifying training needs or workflow friction points. One executive interviewed by MIT described this as the shift from project management to learning management. Instead of viewing AI adoption as a sequence of deliverables, they treat it as an evolving dialogue between people and technology. Feedback loop becomes the organization's nervous system, sensing, responding, and adapting continuously. In practical terms, this might mean establishing AI retrospectives for each project cycle, where teams review not just results, but learning moments. What surprised us? Where did the model help or hinder? What would we do differently? Documenting these insights transforms tacit knowledge into institutional memory. Over time, this compendium of lessons becomes a priceless training asset, a playbook written by practitioners, not consultants. Learning analytics and the human story behind data. As AI systems become embedded in training platforms, organizations now have access to unprecedented learning analytics, data on engagement time, prompt patterns, question types, and content mastery. Used responsibly, these insights can personalize learning, identifying who needs support and what topics require reinforcement. However, as Bessemer cautions, analytics should augment human coaching, not replace it. Metrics reveal patterns, but meaning still requires conversation. For instance, a spike in training dropouts might indicate poor content design, or it might reflect a team overwhelmed by workload. Data alone cannot discern the difference. Only dialogue can. Therefore, measurement systems must be designed with empathy as well as precision. As the SREB reminds us, human interpretation remains the final step in every feedback cycle. The role of recognition and storytelling. Quantitative tracking tells only half the story. The other half is qualitative. The narratives of people who have grown, adapted, and led. These stories give the data soul. They remind teams that behind every metric lies a human achievement. Randstad's recognition mechanisms encourage organizations to document and share these success stories systematically. Short video testimonials, internal newsletters, or live AI showcases where employees present their use cases turn metrics into movement. This storytelling function is not cosmetic, it's motivational. People learn best from peers. When they see someone like them succeed, they begin to imagine themselves succeeding too. MIT's data support this. Organizations that institutionalize storytelling, embedding it in town halls or intranet features, report significantly higher engagement in learning programs. Stories, it turns out, are also data. They are the emotional analytics of transformation. Measuring trust and inclusion. Another often overlooked dimension of AI readiness is inclusivity. Who is participating in the transformation and who is being left behind? SREB's framework for equitable AI readiness emphasizes that true progress cannot be measured only in averages. It must account for distribution, ensuring that access to AI tools, training, and opportunities reaches all employees regardless of department, geography, or background. Some organizations now track AI inclusion indices, which measure diversity across training, participation, and project leadership. These indices act as early warning systems for bias. If one group consistently lags in exposure or confidence, corrective actions, targeted workshops, mentorship, or resource adjustments can be deployed. This practice aligns with Bessemer's emphasis on trust through transparency. When employees see fairness and opportunity, they invest more willingly in the journey. The evolution of performance metrics. The WEF's Future of Jobs 2025 report predicts that performance management will evolve dramatically in the AI era. Traditional key performance indicators, output volume, time on task, are becoming obsolete in knowledge work. Instead, organizations will measure learning velocity, how fast teams acquire and apply new knowledge, collaboration intensity, the frequency and quality of cross-functional interactions, and innovation yield, the ratio of experiments to successful outcomes. This shift reframes productivity as adaptability. It acknowledges that in a rapidly changing environment, the ability to improve is more valuable than static efficiency. In effect, learning becomes labor, mastery becomes measurable. Closing the loop, measurement as motivation. When designed thoughtfully, measurement does not constrain creativity, it fuels it. It transforms the abstract goal of AI adoption into a living narrative of progress. Each dashboard update, each shared story becomes a pulse in the organization's heartbeat. Metrics are no longer compliance tools, but mirrors reflecting collective growth. The secret is balance, measured enough to learn, but not so much that you lose meaning. Keep metrics human-centered, tied to purpose, and communicated with empathy. Celebrate small wins as steps in a larger arc of capability, because ultimately mastery is not a score, it's a mindset. MIT's researchers concluded their report with a single telling line. Organizations that learn how to measure learning become the ones that never stop learning. That's the essence of mastery, not the accumulation of knowledge, but the perpetual refinement of understanding. When progress becomes visible, purpose becomes personal. And when purpose becomes personal, transformation becomes unstoppable. Part 10. From Fear to Fluency, the Road Ahead. Every transformation begins with uncertainty. AI is no different. Across industries and continents, people stand at the same threshold, aware that change is coming, unsure of how to meet it. Some approach that threshold with curiosity, while others with apprehension. And yet, beneath the surface, a quiet realization is spreading. Artificial intelligence is not simply a new technology, it's a new literacy. To thrive in the decades ahead, we must all learn to read, write, and reason with machines as confidently as we do with words. This is not the first time humanity has faced such a leap. When electricity, printing, or computing arrived, the initial reaction was almost always fear. People saw displacement before possibility. But in every case, once understanding deepened, the story changed. Electricity didn't end work, it illuminated it. Printing didn't replace storytellers, it multiplied their reach. Computing didn't erase creativity, it expanded what imagination could do. And the same will be true for AI, but only if we learn to approach it with fluency rather than fear. The spectrum of fluency. Fluency, as we've explored throughout this episode, is not mastery of a tool, but a relationship with learning itself. It sits on a spectrum from awareness to exploration, from application to confidence, from confidence to creativity. And every organization, every team, every individual sits somewhere on that curve. At the beginning is awareness, the moment we recognize that AI is not an external force, but an embedded part of daily life. In our search results, our recommendations, our workflows. Next comes exploration, safe guided experimentation that turns abstract knowledge into personal understanding. Then application, the integration of AI into real work, where its value becomes visible and measurable. And finally, fluency, the stage at which humans and machines collaborate naturally, each amplifying the other's strengths. What separates fluency from the earlier stages is mindset. Fear focuses on what might be lost. Fluency focuses on what can be gained. Fear hoards expertise. Fluency shares it. Fear resists experimentation. Fluency builds experiments into every day. When organizations move from fear to fluency, productivity becomes creativity and learning becomes continuous. From pilots to purpose. The research we've drawn on from MIT, Bessemer, Randstad, SREB, and the World Economic Forum converges on a simple truth. Transformation does not come from tools alone. It comes from people who learn together guided by purpose. MIT calls it the learning gap. Bessemer calls it leadership alignment. Randstad calls it process discipline. Different terms, one message. AI only accelerates what already exists. If a process is broken, automation will amplify the dysfunction. If a culture is fearful, AI will magnify the anxiety. But when the foundation is strong, when purpose is clear, trust is present, and learning is continuous, AI becomes an accelerant of excellence. The best organizations start small, measure honestly, and share openly. They fix the process before they automate it. They design with humans in the loop. They build feedback mechanisms that keep learning alive long after the pilot ends. And above all, they remember that technology is only as good as the people who wield it. The rhythm of renewal. Randstad's framework reminds us that learning ecosystems are not projects but organisms. They grow, adapt, and renew themselves through rhythm. Gap analysis creates awareness. Prioritization creates focus. Collaboration creates energy. Tracking creates momentum. Recognition creates pride. When these 5 stages operate in concert, organizations develop a heartbeat, a pulse of continuous improvement. That rhythm is what separates those who adopt AI from those who evolve with it. It turns training into transformation and experimentation into expertise. And just as importantly, it turns anxiety into agency. Fear dissipates not through reassurance, but through participation. Once people engage directly with AI, their perspective shifts from, will this replace me, to, how can this help me? That shift from defensiveness to design is the true inflection point of progress. Leadership is learning. If there's one consistent theme across all the research, it's that leadership in the age of AI begins with humility. Leaders must model learning, not command it. They must admit what they don't know and invite others to explore alongside them. The old paradigm of certainty is being replaced by one of curiosity. As Bessemer notes, the most credible AI leaders are not experts. They are learners-in-chief. That humility is powerful because it creates permission. When a CEO experiments with ChatGPT and shares both the results and the mistakes, it sends a message that exploration is safe. When a director rewrites a process collaboratively with their team, it signals that AI is a partnership, not a pronouncement. And when executives use data transparently and talk openly about governance, it builds trust that innovation will remain human-centered. This is how cultural transformation takes root, not through top-down directives, but through visible modeling of the learning mindset leaders hope to see replicated. The moral architecture of AI. Governance and ethics are not technical sidebars. They are the moral architecture of the AI era. The organizations that thrive will be those that align automation with values, fairness, transparency, accountability, and human dignity. AI should not obscure decisions, but illuminate them. It should not replace judgment, but refine it. And it should never compromise the principles that define the humanity it seeks to serve. The WEF calls this balance trusted autonomy, the ability for systems to act intelligently within the ethical boundaries set by humans. Bessemer adds a leadership corollary. Ethical clarity precedes technical competence. When teams know why they're using AI and what outcomes they're optimizing for, the how becomes easier. Purpose gives process meaning. Value gives velocity direction. As AI systems permeate every layer of decision-making, ethical fluency becomes as important as technical skill. Each prompt, dataset, or automation reflects an implicit moral choice. The leaders of tomorrow must therefore cultivate not just engineers, but ethical engineers, professionals who can reason about impact, responsibility, and inclusion as rigorously as they reason about accuracy. The next social contract of work. The future of work, as both WEF and SREB emphasize, will hinge on a new social contract built around adaptability and shared investment. Employers must commit to reskilling and psychological safety. Employees must commit to lifelong learning. Policymakers must ensure access and equity. This 3-way partnership will define the next era of productivity. The language of job security is giving way to career resilience. Security no longer means a static position, it means the ability to evolve. The employer's promise, in turn, is not permanence, but empowerment to provide the tools, training, and trust necessary for employees to thrive amid change. When both sides honor that promise, the organization becomes anti-fragile, strengthened, not weakened by disruption. Education systems play a vital role in sustaining this contract. SREB's work demonstrates that when AI literacy is embedded across the curriculum, not siloed as an elective, entire communities benefit. Students graduate ready not only to use technology but to shape it. Workforce pipelines strengthen. Regional economies become magnets for investment. AI literacy becomes civic literacy. Measure meaning, not just metrics. As organizations mature in their AI journeys, the temptation grows to measure everything: dashboards, KPIs, heat maps. But the most profound outcomes defy quantification. Curiosity rekindled, collaboration deepened, courage restored. Metrics matter, but meaning multiplies. The best organizations measure both. MIT's researchers noted that the most enduring transformations they studied shared a single characteristic: visible purpose. Employees understood not just what they were doing with AI, but why it mattered to customers, to colleagues, to society. That sense of shared purpose made learning self-sustaining. As one executive told them, once people see the meaning in the mission, you don't need to manage adoption. It manages itself. Meaning transforms compliance into commitment. It turns a corporate initiative into a shared narrative. And in that narrative, everyone becomes both student and teacher, both learner and leader. From fear to fluency. In the end, this journey comes full circle. Fear will always accompany the unfamiliar. It's the mind's way of asking for understanding. But once understanding grows, fear dissolves into fluency. The same employees who once resisted automation begin proposing new use cases. The same leaders who once hesitated to trust AI begin championing it as a collaborator. The same organizations that once struggled with pilots become recognized for transformation. Fluency is not the absence of fear, it's the mastery of it. It's the moment when curiosity becomes stronger than caution. It's when experimentation replaces hesitation and learning becomes a source of joy rather than anxiety. That is the psychological shift the next decade demands. A closing reflection. If there's one lesson that threads through every report, every interview, and every case study, it's this: technology moves fast, but trust and learning move faster when we let them. AI will not decide the future of work. We will. It will amplify whatever mindset we bring to it: fear or fluency, scarcity or curiosity, control or collaboration. The organizations that thrive will be those that choose fluency, those that treat learning as infrastructure, those that redesign before they automate, those that align ethics with innovation, and those that lead by example rather than by decree. In that alignment of purpose, process, and people lies the real revolution. The tools are already powerful. The question now is whether we're ready to be powerful with them. The road from fear to fluency is not a straight line, but a spiral, one that circles back on itself, each loop higher and clearer than the last. With every experiment, every conversation, every act of learning, we ascend a little further toward mastery. And in doing so, we prove a timeless truth that the future doesn't belong to the machines. It belongs to the humans who learned how to dance with them. This podcast draws on insights and data from the following reports. From MIT, The Gen AI Divide, The State of AI in Business 2025. From Bessemer Venture Partners, AI Upskilling Guide for Executives. From Randstad Digital, The AI Workforce Playbook, a step-by-step guide to upskilling at scale. From the Southern Regional Education Board, Skills for an AI-Ready Workforce. And from the World Economic Forum, The Future of Jobs Report 2025. All of these resources are available on my website at innoguide.net, www.innoguide.net/InnoGuidePodcast. They're in the resources for podcast 65 and 66. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. This has been part 2 of building the AI-ready workforce from fear to fluency. Remember that our website is innoguide.net, where we have many resources for innovators, people building medical products, and those who want to learn AI from somebody who knows medtech. I want to thank Steve McIntyre for producing this, and I want to thank you for joining. I look forward to seeing you next time. That's a wrap.